Have you ever noticed? Some people use social media, but they never post their photos. No selfies, no profile pictures, no stories, nothing. And the strange part is, these people often look the most calm, self-respecting, and mentally strong. People assume they're insecure, afraid of attention, or trying to hide something. But psychology says the truth is completely different. This is not a weakness. This is a form of power. They've mastered something most people spend their whole lives chasing: internal validation. They don't need the world to see them, to feel seen. They don't need comments to feel worthy. Their confidence doesn't come from a screen. It comes from within, and that's rare. These people have learned to exist without performing. They scroll, they watch, they observe, but they don't need to prove they exist. They don't need to document every moment to make it feel real. Their life isn't a highlight reel. It's just lived quietly, intentionally, fully. They're not hiding. They're choosing peace over perception, privacy over popularity, presence over performance. They know that the loudest people aren't always the happiest, and the most visible aren't always the most fulfilled. So they stay low. They stay grounded. They protect their energy. They don't explain themselves. They don't justify their choices. They just move differently. And somehow, that silence speaks louder than any post ever could. In today's world, where everyone is racing to prove themselves, where every moment feels like it must be shown, people who don't post their photos are often the most misunderstood. Social media has taught us that if you're not visible, you don't exist. But psychology disagrees. Psychology says, some people don't build their identity through noise. They build it through silence. These people don't measure their worth by likes, comments, or views. Their self-worth is not connected to numbers glowing on a screen. They understand that when you truly know who you are, you don't need the world's approval. They are not addicted to external validation. It doesn't matter to them who is watching and who is ignoring. For them, the real question is not, what will people think of me? But, what do I think of myself? This inner confidence is what separates them from the crowd. They see privacy not as weakness, but as strength. They understand that not every joy, not every pain, not every success is meant for public display. Some moments are meant to be felt, not shared. They don't live their lives in front of a camera. They don't capture moments. They experience them, while others are busy, finding the right filter, the perfect angle, the perfect lighting. These people are fully present in the moment itself. Psychology calls this mindfulness. They live in the present, not for a future post, and not for past memories on a screen. They are emotionally strong. They understand that if you are genuinely happy, you don't need to prove it. They speak less and listen more. They observe deeply and react carefully. That's why they often score higher in emotional intelligence. They don't fall into the comparison trap. Social media teaches people to constantly compare. Who has a better life, better clothes, a bigger house, more happiness? These people stay out of that game. They understand that every journey is different, and not every journey needs an audience. They don't let jealousy or insecurity control them. They move at their own pace, live by their own principles. They are quiet people, but never weak. They know that what is truly valuable doesn't make noise. Real power is not in being loud. Real power is in being silent. Psychology calls this silent confidence. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need to be displayed. These people are often mentally more at peace. Research shows that less social media exposure leads to less anxiety, less stress, and lower risk of depression. They don't hand over their happiness to an algorithm. They don't worry about how many people saw their post or who ignored it. For them, happiness is a private experience, not a public performance. They understand that not everything that is shown is real, and not everything that is hidden is wrong. Often, the deepest lives are the quietest ones. They've learned something powerful, that your energy is your most valuable resource, and once you give it away to strangers on the internet, you rarely get it back, so they protect it. They guard their peace like a treasure. They don't engage in online drama. They don't argue with people they'll never meet. They don't waste time trying to convince people who don't matter. They've realized that some battles are not worth fighting, and some opinions are not worth changing. This selective silence is not ignorance. It's wisdom. They know the difference between being alone and being lonely. They can sit with themselves without needing distraction. They don't scroll endlessly to fill the void inside. They face themselves. They know themselves, and that self-awareness makes them powerful. Psychology links this behavior to high levels of... These people are comfortable in their own skin. They don't need external affirmation to feel complete. They are whole on their own. They've also mastered boundaries. In a world where oversharing is normalized, they draw clear lines between what's private and what's public. They don't feel obligated to explain their choices, justify their actions, or defend their lifestyle. They understand that not everyone deserves access to their story. Not everyone has earned the right to know their struggles, their wins, their fears, or their dreams. And that's okay. Boundaries are healthy. Silence is sacred. These people also tend to have deeper, more meaningful relationships. Because they're not performing for the crowd, they invest their time and energy into real connections. They call instead of text. They meet instead of message. They listen instead of waiting to speak. They don't collect followers. They build friendships. And those friendships are real. Not based on likes. Not based on image. Based on trust, time, and truth. Psychology tells us that quality matters more than quantity, especially in relationships. And these silent people understand that deeply. They also avoid the trap of living for others' expectations. Society constantly tells us how to look, how to act, how to succeed, how to be happy. But these people reject the script. They write their own story. They define success on their own terms. They don't chase trends. They don't follow the crowd. They lead themselves, quietly, confidently, unapologetically. This kind of independence is rare in today's world. Most people are trapped in the cycle of approval seeking, but not them. They've broken free, and once you break free from the need to be seen, you become truly free. Free to be yourself. Free to fail without fear. Free to grow without judgment. Free to live without performance. That freedom is the ultimate form of mental strength. These people also understand impermanence. They know that everything changes. Trends fade, platforms die, followers move on. But who you are at your core, that remains, so they invest in themselves, not in their image. They read. They learn. They grow. They build skills, character, and inner peace. Things that can't be taken away by an algorithm update or a shift in public opinion. Psychology calls this internal locus of control. It means they believe their life is shaped by their choices, not by outside forces. And that belief makes them resilient. They bounce back faster. They adapt better. They don't crumble when the world doesn't applaud, because their foundation is built on something stronger than validation. It's built on self-respect. If while listening to this, you saw a reflection of yourself somewhere in these words, know this: you're not alone. This channel explores the parts of human psychology most people never talk about. If you want to understand what people don't show, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss an important video. Because not everything that stays silent is weak. Often, it's the strongest thing in the room.